Hi, I'm Dr. Sharon Melnick. It's holiday time, and what does that mean? It means that you're probably going to end up spending some time with your family of origin or your extended family. Now for you, that might mean that there's certain comforts and joys, and that's terrific, but for some of you it may also be the case that it comes along with having to deal with that difficult person, right? So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to give you some tips for how to deal with that difficult person who frustrates you. Maybe they criticize you or try to control you or they burden you. And I want you to still be able to be who you can be and be your generous self, even though they still might be at the Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner, okay? So here's the idea, is that you're probably under so much stress these days that I want to make sure that we clear away this is stress so that you can look forward to connecting with your family and having it be an experience that is actually memorable and enjoyable for you. So here's the idea. There's two things that you can do when it comes to dealing with a family member. The first is that you can try to improve the situation and make it better. The second thing is that you can not try to make the situation better, okay? How about if I take them in order? Would that be okay? Okay, good. So let's start with the first one. The first one is when you're actually going to try to make the situation better. Now, my guess is that you probably feel like, oh, I've been trying for years to make the situation better. But here's the rule if you're going to try to make it better. You can only try to improve things that have to do with what you can do. Your contribution, your 50%, right, of the interaction. So what that means is that you have to accept that they're never going to change, that they're never going to be any different, even though you hope that they would just stop being the way that they would be, right? Even though you just wish, and you probably say to yourself in your mind they shouldn't be that way. Why do you keep doing this to me? That's not even true. Why do you say that, right? You just wish in your own mind. But that's not going to work, actually. So if you want to try to improve the situation, here's the rule. What you have to focus on is what you can do differently. So there are so many things, but here are just some examples. So if there's been some bad blood or some kind of tense interactions, what you can do is you can own up, you can take responsibility for what you've contributed. And you can acknowledge it and you can say you're sorry for it, right? Or you can start talking to the person about things that are really important to them, like make sure that you acknowledge their birthday or their, things that are going on with their kids or something like that. Or you can set your boundaries more effectively, right? And let people know that you have zero tolerance for being criticized and that you're not going to stick around and kind of listen to it, right? Again, not tell them that they shouldn't criticize you, but you just make sure that you kind of take care of your own self. So those are just some examples of the kinds of things that you could do, right? If you want to try to improve the situation. And a lot of times I find that once you're acting differently, it's almost like if you're locked in with someone like this, once you start to act differently, actually they don't bother you so much anymore. And sometimes it's even the best role modeling for them to start acting differently. But we don't want to live in hope. We just want you to be empowered to start acting differently. So if you want to try to make it better, those are some of the things that you can work on. Now, if you've been trying those things, right, if you've been as effective as you can be in your 50% and there's been no change, then we want to move on to number 2, where you're not going to try anymore to get them to be more respectful to you. And if this is the case, then here are a few strategies that you can do instead, okay? So one thing that you might want to do is you might want to kind of protect yourself from their negativity. Right? So there's a number of different ways that you could do that. One thing that you can do is you can literally sort of create like an imaginary field around you. For some people, use whatever metaphor is fun for you, right? So maybe it's like a cone of protection, or maybe it's like gold dust around you, or it's a breastplate, whatever it is, of armor or something, whatever it is for you that works. Just imagine it as the person is talking to you. So it's like they're talking to you through the plate glass and it can't get in. And I'll give you a hint. A strategy that I use, here's something that I do, is I imagine that person who's really negative towards me, when I hear them talking, I just imagine they're like Charlie Brown's teacher. Do you remember that? So they're talking and I'm pretending as if I'm like listening or interested, and I'm just hearing wah, 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 you know what I mean? And I try to make sure if there's like important information like about logistics or something, you know, that I'll get it so I could be on time, or, you know, bring the right thing to the family dinner. But all the stuff that has to do, you know, negative towards me, I just don't take that in. So that's one thing that you can do, is you can protect yourself from their negativity. Okay, let's go on to like number 2, something else that you could do. Very important. Here's what you want to do. You want to separate what's my stuff from what's their stuff, okay? Because usually what's going on in those situations is the person has kind of like an outdated perception of you, right? So they're stuck in some really old way of thinking about you, like from when you were young or something like that. And when you listen to it, you think to yourself, oh no, I'm still that way, right? And you take it in as if it's the truth. But really what's going on is they're probably telling you more about them and where they're stuck than they're telling you about you and kind of what's factually true about you these days. Now, let's understand this a little more fine-tuned, right? Now, if they say things to you that are negative and it really gets you, you know, it really like hurts you a lot, it might be a tip-off to you that what they're saying, on some level, you kind of believe it's true, right? And then the reason that it's hurtful or that it has power over you is because all they're doing is activating a doubt that you have about yourself. And if that's the case, then no reason to waste time being upset with them, because really what your opportunity is for you to either work on accepting yourself for those things that have been a struggle for you and just embracing the strengths that you do have and the values that you do bring and all the accomplishments that you do have, like not keep torturing yourself about those things that are maybe kind of a struggle or harder for you. Or if you think that, you know, I really maybe could be further along in my life or more accomplished, then get on it, you know what I mean? And make a plan and, you know, get a coach or join a course or a group or whatever it is. But the point is that don't let their opinion about you affect you. Really, it's about you and how you feel about yourself. So either work on accepting yourself or get busy getting accomplished, right? And so you can be proud of who you are. Now, it may be the case that that person is having these outdated perceptions where they're like, you know, still stuck in the past, and it just makes you kind of aggravated, like you're not even hurt by it because you're like, oh, that's really old hat, you know? But maybe it makes you kind of aggravated because you're just like, that's not even me. And if that's the case, probably what you're feeling is you're probably really more disappointed, because then it's just like, what am I going to do? You know, I've moved on and this person is really stuck, and I just wish that, you know, that we could have more of a relationship. It's kind of a missed opportunity, you know what I mean? But there really your opportunity is it's kind of sad, you know, and just to maybe try to accept that sadness that you haven't been able to get from the person what you richly deserved, and really the only solution there is for you to go out and to create a life where you can connect with people and enjoy people, where you can feel proud of your own life. So at least you can finally get that feeling, even if you couldn't get it from that parent or that sibling, you know, or that important family member. At least you can have that experience of being loved and connected and accomplished in your own life. So that was number 2, right, is to separate out what's my stuff from what's their stuff. Okay, let's go on to number 3. Okay. This is an old favorite, and for good reason. Number 3 is kill them with kindness. Kill them with kindness. Okay, really just what that means is just be really good to that person. When you speak to them, you know, it's in a really, like, you know, kind of positive tone or loving tone. And this is really a good strategy to use when you've kind of given up in the situation, right? And it's really a signal for you where it's all you're trying to do is kind of to try to prevent the bad behavior or the negativity. You're just trying to survive. Like if you just have to be in the situation with them, like for the dinner, let's say, and you're just trying to survive it, and you want to make sure that you don't do anything to set the person off, kill them with kindness. And it's surprisingly effective. They may even come back and, you know, sort of be more respectful to you than you even expected for them. Okay, so let's go on to number 4. Number 4 is about be thankful. Be thankful. Now, the thing is that this difficult person, right, you really want to be thankful that you only have to be around them for whatever it is, maybe a few hours a week or a month or maybe even a few hours a year, right, when you get together with the family. And so you're only subject to the way that they talk to you for those few hours. But the thing is, for that person, they have to live with themselves all day long. So one of the things that you can really be thankful for is that you're you and that you don't have to be them. And in fact, it can kind of give you compassion for them. And then, of course, there are so many other things in your life that you can be thankful on. And it's really helpful for you to just really kind of focus on those things, particularly maybe before you go to bed at night, really make a list of them and really go beyond some of the obvious things. You might be grateful for your family, you might be grateful for the shelter above your head and for food on the table and for your health, of course, that's the most, important thing. But really try to dig deep for the freedoms that you have and for the heat, that you might have in your house or for the opportunities that you have. There are so many things once you start turning your attention to being grateful, and then that difficult person, they'll barely even kind of exist on your radar screen. So that's strategy number 4 is be thankful. Now, if you've had on your wish list to kind of have a holiday that didn't have that difficult family member, or maybe on your wish list to even have a different family, then you now have strategies for how to deal with that situation and how to deal with that difficult family member so that you can still be the person who you want to be, so that you can still be generous and be able to connect either with that family member or the other people in your family. Right? So you can take that off your wish list and you can instead spend your time thinking more specifically about something that could be even more helpful to you or to your family members. And as long as you're not having to waste your time and energy being kind of sucked into the negativity of that difficult family member, of course, that frees you up to be more generous in helping others to achieve their wishes. So again, this is Dr. Sharon Melnick wishing you a happy, enjoyable, and stress-free holiday.